This is a question that I feel like I'm often asked, and I don't have a great answer myself, but maybe you have a better one than me. Was there a moment where you thought, this is what I want to do when I'm older, or a particular person that you worked with that inspired you and wanted to be an actor as an adult instead of a kid?
I too wish I had a more profound, like, aha moment to talk about when I get asked this question, but truly my sort of beginning was so coincidental and just like variables fell into place, and then all of a sudden I was like, kind of, it was happening, you know? And the one thing that I knew that I loved from a very early age was playing pretend and using my imagination, and I really couldn't be bothered to do anything else, and that's why my mom was like, okay, well maybe she wants to do this summer drama camp and like be in plays, or maybe she's wants to be an actress. I don't know, like she was trying to kind of hone, she would put me in all kinds of lessons, like gymnastics, ballet, like all, and I didn't want to do any of it. I just wanted to like be at home and make up a whole scenario. So I guess she thought maybe she wants to be an actress. So I couldn't, it wasn't that I communicated like, Mom, I want to go to California and be an actress, but then that kind of opportunity arose and I did want to do that, and then the next opportunity would come and I wanted to continue, and so that's sort of how it happened. And now, of course, 24, looking back, I literally can't imagine having any other life or doing anything else other than being an actor. It's become a part of who I feel I am. But I wish I had like that moment of like inspiration, you know, where like, because it just was kind of this slow build, I guess, which, yeah, that's just that's my answer to that. But when did you know?
I guess there wasn't that moment. You know, as you know, you sort of start out as a kid, and it just felt like, not that I didn't take it professionally or throw myself into it and take it seriously, but it didn't feel like a job. It wasn't this profession, and my parents weren't, I guess it wasn't a hobby, but it wasn't something that my parents said, this is what you're going to be forever. If anything, they were more encouraging of other things, and even the dream of like being a footballer, of a soccer player. They were like, well, that's better than a
tennis player. I come from a full like athletics family, so this was like the last thing on anyone's radar for what they wanted me to be. And
then it just sort of carried on, and the projects continued. But I feel like I was probably lucky, or I've always thought, growing up in London and being somewhat removed from LA, and I guess it's more impressive that you've managed to stay so grounded, whereas I had the return to what I thought of as normality by going back to school and continuing on with education, and I feel like it must have been trickier to be in an environment where the industry seemed somehow closer or less hard to escape. Even though I feel like I did grow up in Los Angeles, I'm from Georgia originally, and my family is very traditional and Southern, and so even though I grew up in LA, I grew up almost in Georgia too, like in my household, you know, and I mean, you've met the thing is, we also should probably share that we've known each other for quite some time and have a friendship. We haven't worked together, but it feels like we somehow have. But yeah, it does. And you know, I've met your parents, you've met my mom, and I just credit, even though I grew up in LA, my mom managed to give me a very kind of stable, grounded life, and she went with me everywhere. She was always the same with my dad.
Your dad went with you, and I think that's she was always my constant and my provided stability for me, and at the same time, she's completely not in the business and never wanted to be, and she was just my mom always. So we were kind of learning together too, and like navigating it together. But I think that's. Even though I grew up in LA, I feel like I weirdly like grew up outside, you know, because of just the kind of like values that she has. It wasn't, so. Yeah, my mum, as you know, my mum is an agent for actors back in the UK, but it probably seems, you'll hopefully understand this, but others may not. They always feel like I came from this industry family, or it was something that I was always destined to do. Whereas it didn't feel like that at all. It felt like, you know, having that grounded
family stability, and it was such a world away from acting and from that industry. I guess neither of us got caught up in believing the hype and the madness and seeing through that facade.
No, my mom was always saying, like, we're just living in LA right now. It had been like 4 years, you know what I mean? Like, she was like, oh, we still kind of live in Georgia. I was like, well, we don't, you know? She refused to accept that this was kind of something that was gonna stay. But I have an interesting question. I wonder what your answer will be, because I get asked this question a lot too, is one day in the future, when you have a child, would you let them start out so young if they
I get asked this too, and by people who are close to me and who I think like me, and so you think, well, I mean, I turned out hopefully okay, so I don't know, it's such a, I guess we have to say yes, in that I feel very lucky to have had all of those opportunities that I had as a kid, but I guess something that we both did also was go to university, and I never felt like I decided to just be an actor or to define myself as an actor from a very early age. It was something that I was doing, but then it was important to me to go off to university and study something, and then have acting as an adult be an active choice, as opposed to feeling now at 26, oh, I just fell into this
have
somehow.
Like experiences to draw from that are not completely pretend and on a set, you know. That was, I went to a regular high school, and having that sort of traditional American high school experience was really important to me, and I got to have that and also still work, and so that was really nice. My answer to that question of if I had a kid, would I let them start out so young, is yes, because I have not one regret about my life, and I know how I felt, and if my child felt that way, I wouldn't ever stop them from doing it. My one thing is, I would want to be there with them all the time. So then would I be selfless enough to do that, you know? Like that's my one question. Because I could never send my kid off to a set and not have like a parent there. That is so, like, such a foreign concept to me.
I like how we're talking now about the kids that we will have.
The kids that we will
together,
have, one day, you and I on set together with your kid, my kid.
Separate kids, being like, it was so great, we retired, we like left it to the kids to do. Although it feels like, this is probably a side note, but people have often asked me about you, like, what was it like to date Dakota? Because we had this one dinner where our parents were just literally like in the next door restaurant, and we sat down at like 14, and then discussed this film that we never ended up doing together, and came out, and everyone was like, oh, you're going out together, how lovely it was. And it was many years before, you know, people seemed to stop asking me about how you were.
Rumor, my God.
No, I feel like, well, I won't go into more details about, I didn't encourage it, but it wasn't something.